Welcome back to the 20-Minute Gamer channel. I'm your host, Nick, and we're jumping into some more content creator showcase content. Today, we are talking to a Twitch streamer who uses YouTube as an archive for his videos. A lot of questions, a lot of gaming history is going to come out of this conversation. Can't wait to get started on this one. So without further ado, let's jump in. Today we're talking to GBmax. Let's get into those introductions. So introductions, we're here with GBmax64. Now, I've got your details on the screen. Tell me a little bit about your channel and how people can get a hold of you.
My channel, in terms of the YouTube side, it's just an archive. It has all the videos, well, the stream videos that I do for my streams on Twitch side of things. So it's just that. It's just an archive. It's labeled as VODs for a reason.
Okay.
So, but like in terms of like the Twitch side of things, it's again a streaming channel. So I do stream the games that I have an interest in. Like most of the games I've done thus far are games that I've either played before up to that point, or I've gotten like it's grabbed my attention and I've now gone really into it. Like a couple that I can give reference to. There's Blue Fire, which I very much love, very fun. Hollow Knight, The Surge, although The Surge was one of the games I was already playing long before I started streaming. But it was one of the games where I had like no interest into that kind of gameplay, like Dark Souls like.
Sure.
It just grabbed my attention. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play this, and then I got really into it. So,
what is it? I mean, you kind of brought forward Blue Fire right away as far as a game that you really love. What is it about Blue Fire's a gameplay loop or story, or what is it about that game that really grabs you? Is it the genre, or is it that game in particular?
In all honesty, like Blue Fire was underneath my radar the whole time.
Okay.
Like I didn't know it existed, but I'm part of a subscription, like Humble Bundle.
Yeah. I'm really familiar with them.
It was in my Humble Bundle.
Okay.
And that's how I learned about it. And I'm like, all right, that seems fun because it seems to it's a Metrovania like Hollow Knight, but using the third dimension. It's
Sure.
3-dimensional. And that's what got my attention at first. I'm like, okay, it's very close to Hollow Knight, except that it's 3D. So that's what really got my attention, and then I started playing it. It's not all too difficult in terms of like gameplay. The enemies are not really that tough. If you played Hollow Knight before, or any like hack and slash type of games, like it wouldn't be that hard.
Sure.
But like the thing that really got me into it is that the movement is very free with what you can do. The terrain is rather simple. But because of the movement system in the game, like you could like get up into places that you don't need to.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm with you.
And they hit it, and the game developers were cheeky enough that they hid golden like rubber duckies.
Yeah.
Around in like every level. So and like you would see them once in a while, and you were like, why the hell are these here? So like at one point, I was like, all right, I'm gonna find all of them.
Sure.
And I found, I don't remember the exact number. I think it was 12. Because there's one in every stage hidden somewhere. Let's see.
What being that you use YouTube as an archive, what's your schedule on Twitch? I know Twitch kind of locks you into kind of streaming on a schedule. I know you can deviate from it a little bit, but if people want to tune into your Twitch, what times roughly can they expect to kind of see you on?
It's as of right now, my schedule is just been all over the place due to the fact that recently I just left my my day job. So like before, I had a very set streaming schedule. I would start streaming at 10 and end at 12 before work. But now that I'm no longer working, it's kind of like been pushed back to like starting between like 1 to 4 now.
Okay.
1 to 4, 1 to 4 p.m. So like it's not really now set in stone.
It's
Like
just
it was
it's more
before,
now
but now.
it's more now just fluid for your day when you just have the time to kind of do it.
Yeah, like
Fair.
before,
Yeah.
like because of the schedule, I only was able to stream for those 2 hours. Like, sure, I could push for another hour because I did give myself that leeway, but I would like always try to like be able to finish the stream and within those 2 hour span, like have like a good ending note in a sense.
Sure.
But
Considering some of the titles that you've touched base on and some of the videos that I've seen you play as well. I mean, in our conversation leading up to this, I obviously want to ask all the content creators, hey, what games do you really kind of want to showcase, games that you really, really love? And you gave me Blue Fire. You gave me Risk of Rain as well, which I love. I mean, that is a great,
yeah,
great
yeah.
title. I love Risk of Rain too.
Risk of Rain was one of the games that I was playing a lot before I started streaming. Like I practically had like all of the content, like all the available items, the characters like unlocked
Yeah,
before I started streaming. So like when I was like, I definitely want to stream this because it's fun. There's a lot of again, it's a roguelike, so there's a lot of replay value in it
yeah, yeah, for
because
sure.
like you can just do crazy shenanigans. So like I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start streaming it, and I'm gonna start a brand new profile. I'm gonna start dirt nothing, and like work my way back up to where I was, and then I'll start doing shenanigans with it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like one stream, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play with this character, and I'm only allowed to have one item of each rarity, and that's gonna be it for the run, and we're gonna see how well it takes us. Sometimes it was just because like certain items just like work well, and the once again like you can just stack on that one item and you can get to who cares how many stages in the end.
sure.
But it's just like some were like better than others. Some were just broken as all hell.
Yeah,
So
my buddy introduced me to Risk of Rain. It's a title so I mean it was a title that I always knew was out there, but I honestly like I never gave it a fair shot because graphically I wasn't in tune to it. And then once we actually started playing it, it's one of those titles that's kind of a sleeper game, Some people look
yeah,
at a game and they say, "Oh, I'm not really into it graphically, but then you may actually start playing it and you realize this is a really solid title. I mean, like
yeah,
another great one is maybe Darkest Dungeon. I mean, the animations are pretty basic and everything. I wouldn't say that. I mean, I love Darkest Dungeon. Don't get me wrong, but it's certainly one of those titles that just from images and glances, you could probably find people who wouldn't be remotely interested in playing Darkest Dungeon because it's just it's basic movements, basic combat, but it's so much more than that once you get into it. And Risk of Rain is just like that. And of course, also being a roguelite title, there's so much value in Risk of Rain. Do you find yourself being a jack of all trades with the majority of the games that you play as far as genres go, or do you find yourself gravitating toward a specific style of game, like Metroidvania or roguelite? Is there
yeah.
a market that you
I
kind of lean into?
yeah, like in terms of like game genres, I mostly lean into like the action RPG side of
Sure.
it, but I also do like roguelikes, puzzle strategies, just sandbox in general, like Minecraft, for
Yeah.
instance. Like there's a lot that you can do. Like as long as the game gives me like a certain extent of like in-game freedom that I can just go and do my own thing, then I'll most likely be happy with it.
Okay. Okay. What tell me a little bit about your gaming history. I mean, where did you start as a gamer and Additionally, when did you just kind of wake up and say, you know what, I want to start a YouTube channel and archive my Twitch footage, or hey, I want to be a Twitch streamer. You know, when did that moment hit for you? So kind of a two-part question, but certainly I think they go together.
Well, in terms of being like becoming a gamer, I was already like growing up in that aspect.
Yeah.
My first memories of playing video games in general would be on the PlayStation 1, the first PlayStation.
Yeah, yeah.
And playing Spyro. Well, if I remember right, we only had 3 games on that PlayStation, which was Spyro, the first Spyro game, a game adaptation of A Bug's Life, and a Barbie game because of my younger sister.
Sure.
And as far as I can remember, that was the first instance of playing video games. Sure, I was like, I don't know, 3-4 years old at the time, so I barely remember any of it. Like, as far as I can tell in Spyro, I couldn't even beat the first level.
Sure.
I was stuck in the lobby, like the main hub of the game, the whole time.
Just like Spyro running into a wall. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I was just having fun running around in circles. And that was it. And then I don't remember what happened to that PlayStation. It just vanished at some point because I don't remember what happened to it. And then like the second instance that I can think of like playing video games was with the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
We didn't have one at my house, but my grandparents did. So every time we visited our grandparents, me and my little brother would like go straight down to their basement and play on the N64, and we played Smash Brothers. We were terrible at it. We didn't even know that the B move existed.
Man, 64 was a great system, though. There were a ton of great titles for it. I mean, I just think of like Perfect Dark. I mean, Nintendo 64 had some of the best wrestling games. I mean, to this day, probably top 3, top 5 wrestling games of all time has got to be No Mercy on Nintendo 64. So a great system to kind of start out on. Well, not even necessarily start out on, but have as a secondary for video game education as far as that goes.
Yeah, but it's like we were so young at the time, so we didn't even know what the hell we were doing. I remember like one memory of trying to play Ocarina of Time at that age. I didn't even realize that the Deku Tree was a tree. I thought it was like a cliff.
Oh my god.
From what I can remember of it, I didn't even know what the hell was going on. The intro intro cinematic for Ocarina of Time, I didn't even understand a thing that was happening. Like, I was just completely didn't know what was going on. So it was kind of funny, like thinking back on it. And then eventually we got our own N64 at home, and then we just continued playing that. We playing like Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, more Smash Brothers, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. What's that other few ones? Oh well, but like yeah, those like main ones. The problem was like growing up, my father, my dad, is like highly Mormon. Nothing against that or anything, but I'm no longer like an active Mormon anymore.
Sure.
So like, but like because he was highly Mormon, like he was very strict on anything that was like bad in terms of like the religious sense. So like you just mentioned wrestling, I had none of that.
Yeah. So
like anything that he deemed that was like child appropriate, that was the only thing I could get my hands on.
Well, I mean, I've stated this on a couple of my videos already, but man, I completely understand. My parents were Polish immigrants, and so education was extremely important to them. They never understood video games. They hate video games. I'm I am an adult male. I have my own life. I have my own family. I have a kid, and even to this day, my mom and dad kind of grimace a little bit when they don't understand like what my YouTube channel is and how I could actually devote any time to video games. Even though I try to tell them about all the milestones and that I've hit, they're supportive in whatever way that a parent can be supportive, but they don't understand it. They don't get it. It is what it is, man. They come from a different era. They didn't really kind of grow up. They grew up with technology so much later on in life than like myself. You know, first computer that we ever had in our house was a 286 computer. I mean, it was really bare bones, but I mean, computers were finally kind of coming into everybody's home as something that everyone can have. And my parents to this day, I mean, they, not to say I wouldn't rather read a book than play a video game, but it's a quiet house sometimes whenever we go over there, man. It's just the TVs are off. There's no music playing. And it's just like, it's like a tomb, man. It's like a catacomb. So I definitely understand parents kind of controlling a certain image from time to time. I get that.
Yeah. So it's like, I grew up on Nintendo consoles. Like, again, I did say that we did have a PlayStation, but I don't remember what happened to it, and we never got an Xbox or a PlayStation after that fact. Like, not at all. So we got, like, we had the N64, and then when the Wii came out, we got that. But we did also have a computer, but it, not exactly as bare bones as you had it, but it was Windows XP.
Sure.
Like, old. Like, at the time. Like, sure, when my dad got it, it may have been new.
You
at the time that we had it, Windows 7 was a thing.
Do you primarily stream PC on Twitch, or do you have consoles connected?
I do have a Nintendo Switch connected, but it's mainly PC.
Okay.
I mainly play PC now. Due to the fact that like the only gaming systems that I had at the time was the N64, the Wii, and a computer. Well, the Game Boy too, but like again, all Nintendo is like console based, so it's just like I never really had any other console to play games with except the computer. So like growing up, it was either Nintendo or the computer. So like, but even then, like on the computer, we didn't really have that many games. Like, I'm trying to think of a better way to put it. Like my dad, even though yes, he was Mormon, but he also like grew up playing video games in a sense.
Okay.
As like at that time, like video games were still old and rather retro, but like he did bring in games that he played that I played that we would play. One that he was very into Dragon Quest.
Okay. Yeah.
Like he played like a couple titles of those, so I was like, I even played those. But I never really, well, as a kid, you don't really get as far as like someone who actually understands what's going on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's certainly a disconnect for you.
It was fun. It was fun, but I never really got anywhere like close to the end of the game. So like that was like one thing that like drew me into like playing the RPG aspects of games, because like those old games are pretty much RPGs. So
what is there a continued effort on the games that you play now, or do you try to do you try to like play through them and complete them, or do you kind of hold on to the titles and make them last a little bit? Like what's your I guess play style like? How long does the title usually last for you?
It mainly depends on like the plot of the game.
Okay.
Like I have a couple games I can think of like now, like the Darksiders series. Like once I played it through, it's just done. There's nothing really more to do because you're following a linear progression through the plot, and once that plot's over, you've basically seen it all. And not to mention, like I have a completionist kind of like mindset where I'm like, I'm just trying to complete as much as I can. So I have like as much as I can do at the time. Like again, I want to like free roam as much as possible and collect things. But I'm like, I'm gonna do that as I progress through the story. I'm gonna make sure I have everything before I do the next step that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go out of my way to collect the one extra item, even though I don't need it. So it's like after I complete the game, depending on what the game is, like it just may be done.
I can definitely appreciate that, man. I think I've had my fair shake. Actually, when I one of my jobs I worked at, I actually had a competition with a buddy of mine. It was a 30-day competition. It was a achievement hunting completionist competition where we were both on PlayStation at the time, PlayStation 3, and it was who could have the most platinums, golds, silvers, and bronzes at the end of the 30 days. And I mean, they all added up as well. So like 1,000 bronze would equal 1 silver, 100 silvers would equal, one
like
gold, etc. Yeah,
basically.
yeah. So I had an absolute blast with it, man. I've definitely had my fair share of a completionist mentality. So I hear you there.
Yeah, so it mainly depends on the game. Like the Surge, like sure you could there. Let's take like the Surge and Dark Souls for example. Like
Sure.
Dark Souls, you can play it over and over and over again, even if you've already beaten it. But that's because you can have like a different build each time, so you can play it a different way than you did before. But in like the Surge, you don't really have that. Like sure you have different weapons, and like different armor, but like the play style throughout all of it is not really different compared to like the different if you have like a different weapon per se. So like the thing that like got me to replay the Surge after beating it was just to get better at the game to the point where I don't even need an item to heal myself to beat it.
Sure. Yeah.
So like in terms of Dark Souls, like after I beat it, I'm like I may come back and try to do a different build, but due to the fact that the game is so challenging and requiring you to like get good at it, I'm like I beat it once, I got my participation trophy. I'm happy.
Yeah, man, it's easy to you kind of get you can get really bad burnout, right? You play a game so long and you exhaust so much content out of it. At some point in time, picking that game up again is nauseating.
With, like, Risk of Rain 2 right now is like I've played it a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm gonna drop it. It's a roguelike that I very much enjoy playing, especially like on my free time when I have like nothing better to do.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not really something that you can like keep pumping out content if the exact same gameplay loop is the same.
Right.
I hop onto it once in a while when I have nothing else scheduled to stream at the time. So it's like it's good to have like games that I have lined up. I'm like, all right, I have nothing scheduled to stream. Let's just grab one off of the list and play it, which are most likely just a roguelike.
Tell me one thing that kind of gravitated me to the one thing I found that I loved on the YouTube channel was your avatar that you utilize in the streams. How did you come up with the design? Why use an avatar and not well, I guess not having a camera could certainly be an element of that. You just usually see on Twitch streamers, it's usually them and a camera and a green screen. Why choose an avatar over a camera? And tell me a little bit about why that avatar. Was there something about the mechanical look, the robotic look that grabbed you?
Well, in terms of just using an avatar, not like just using my face in general, was more along the lines that at the time, like VTubing was becoming a thing, and it's just like I could use a camera, but I didn't really want to get my face like out in the public, in a sense. Like I wanted to be faceless, and it's just like, well, when you're streaming, you want to have like some form of like interaction with your audience. So it's just like you need something that they can like interact with. So like an avatar was kind of like necessary at the time, and because like VTubing was becoming a thing, it was an option. So that's kind of the reason why it went that way. In terms of like the design, it was mainly due to my username.
Yeah. Okay.
Because like the origin of my username, because we had it again. The computer at the time growing up was so old. My username just came off of a disk drive. Like it was an ad on the drive. It was
Nice.
like
Okay. Okay.
GB. It was like an ad stating like I don't know like the speed that it can do at the max. I'm like, there's my username, GBmax. The 64 got added in because GBmax at the time when I was making an account was already taken, and I'm like, I grew up on the Nintendo 64, so I added the 64. So I was like, it was my avatar basically got created because of the username because it fit it. I'm like, the username is highly technical because that's the origin of it. So I'm like, I need something that's also mostly technical. So it's just like, all right, I'm not really good in like the artistic creative side of things. I'm more logical creative.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
So, so like I had like a base idea. I'm like, but how am I supposed to get it to, but how do I want it to like detailedly look? I know I want like some sort of Android kind of sense with it, but it's just like, how would the head look? What kind of clothes will he be wearing? So it's just like at the time, I'm like, I like Minecraft is one of my most favorite games. As ask anyone. So like, I basically took like my Minecraft skin. I'm like, all right, my Minecraft skin is a human. How do I turn it into an android? Well, we can remove the facial features and give him like the iconic like RTC
Yeah. Yeah.
TV screen kind of head thing, and then it's just like boom, done. So like at first the model was basically just a JPEG image that I drew up, and then when an artist, Emilia, I think that's how you pronounce it. She hopped on to one of my streams. It's just like, hey, I'm an artist. I can do things for you. And then we started talking about like the avatar that I was using again, which at the time was a JPEG.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I can help you make your 3D model. I'm like, sure. And that's how the model came about.
And it's I mean, it's animated to your expressions and everything. I assume now that's, I mean, that whole process is actually a little Greek to me. I don't understand. I assume that it's,
it's basic. It's just like using a webcam to like track my facial expressions, and the model is rigged to emulate those.
Okay. Yeah, I assume so. I just, you know what, man, if someone asked me to do that for them, I'd be like, you're going to give me like a year to figure this out. I have no idea. That stuff is way outside of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Who do you kind of growing up in this technological age, and once kind of paving your own path, who did you kind of grab inspiration from in your youth, as far as, gamers or YouTube channels or Twitch streamers even? Who did you gravitate towards?
I can't really say that I really gravitated to anything growing up. Mainly, once again, my father was like very restrictive on what we had access to, and at the time we had no internet.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, he didn't even bother to pay for internet because of that. So, like any form of like media we had access to was like books, audiobooks that we can get from the library. So like until like I want to say junior high, like I never really had access to internet. Like sure, he eventually bought like a little USB thing that like provided internet, but it was shit internet. It was so bad. But it did the basic thing. So we never really had the chance to like use it to like watch videos or anything on the internet. It was just basically there to like look up information or to like submit homework or whatever.
The most minimal download speeds possible just to make anything work. Uploading a 100 megabyte file took an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I gotcha.
Like that was basically it. So like up until like junior high, we basically had no internet. So like the only like that's kind of like another reason why like I was growing up as a gamer. I didn't really have anything better to do. I was like either do homework, play with my siblings, or play video games with them, and that was roughly it.
What would you say? I mean, as in your experience of gaming, and I mean, just your experience in life as well. You know, what's one message? What's one thing that you would want your audience to know about you? Or, I mean, it's kind of a philosophical question maybe for some. But you know, what's one thing you'd really want people to hear out, or understand from your perspective?
Uh, Give me a minute. In terms of like growing up, like just like moving in life in general, just like one philosophy that I've like kind of like not exactly developed, but like picked up. Because like sure, like growing up, the information that I had available to me was like limited, but like as I got older, entering like junior high and high school, like that information got broader. Like I watch anime, I read mangas. I never really read books as a kid, but I did listen to audiobooks as a kid because it was a lot more fun to just lay there and listen to the person read out the book to you.
Yeah.
So it's just like I did like sure I lived underneath a rock for half of my childhood growing up, but like even then I still kind of like live underneath a rock because I don't watch the news. Like I don't really care for drama
Sure.
all
I
too
hear
much.
that. Yeah. 100%
So
with you.
like a philosophy that I kind of just picked up is just like you walk through life even if you like want to stop and like fix something in the past, you can't fix that. The past never changes. It's set in stone. The future, yes, it's like wobbly, but you don't really know what it's going to do. You don't know what's gonna come, so you just basically live in the moment and like plan out for the future the best you can. If that made any sense.
It does 100%, man. And I love it. It's, it kind of, just kind of, pay attention to where you are now and just do your best to get where you want to go. You know, I think that's,
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately it's a great philosophy. I think it's a great way to look at things too. I think you're right though. I think a lot of people kind of I think people try to affect their future more than they actually have control to do so. And I think
Yeah,
that can lead to a lot of
like one way
disappointment.
that I look at like the future and like time as a whole, I mainly gotta say this without context of like my train of thought or whatever, but like in my perspective, time is basically like an ocean, and any action you do is basically just a splash in that ocean. Like you can affect the general area that you're doing, but you're not gonna affect something that's across the planet. All to say.
Sure. Nope.
Like, unless you have an influence like, I don't know, Microsoft, Apple, any big corporation, you're not really going to be able to do something that will affect something on the other side of the planet. You're only going to affect, like, the given area that you're in.
No, I think it's the differences between macro and micro. You know, control, but you have
Yeah.
the ability to do so, and yeah, I mean, just don't be a dick to everybody else.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I don't have anything else I want to kind of talk to you about today, man. I think we've had a great dialogue. I want to thank you for taking time to talk to me. I know you said you kind of have a little bit more free time, but at the end of the day, man, you still kind of took that time and offered me that time, and I cannot thank you enough for that. Time is a great commodity, and sharing it with others,
Yeah.
I think, is one of the greatest gifts we have. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today.
Yep. You're welcome.
Awesome. GBmax64, everybody. I'll have his details on the screen. I'll have them in the description and everything. Anything last you want to say to the people out there, GB?
Have a nice day and just keep walking, I guess.
There it is. There it is. We'll see you on the next one, everyone. Take it easy. Nick out.